SENSESPACE. I am absolutely stoked and honored to be holding this event on conscious cannabis culture today. Pulled together a really phenomenal group. We got Jordan Bates of Heavily Indicated. I don't usually introduce you by that, but it feels extra relevant today. You and Cory, who is also with us today and is going to be doing a sound healing during the session, part of a rap duo called Heavily Indicated. But more meaningfully, you guys are stewards of sacred plant medicine and have a lot of experience with the creative power of cannabis. And then we have Ryan from Ryan Sprague, Highly Optimized, Connect with Cannabis, Conscious Cannabis Collective. I'm sure I'm leaving some more cannabis related enterprises out there. But yeah, this initiative is inspired by my sensibility that there remains an enormous potential of cultural transformation and healing within cannabis. And a lot of the emphasis in culture today is on the possibility space of psychedelics, plant medicine, clinical use of mushrooms, and things of that nature for healing. But actually, the use of cannabis is far, far more widespread. And this bears out an enormous opportunity, because if a new cultural frequency can be toned in relationship to cannabis, that can impact far more people. And actually, the bar of accessibility is a lot lower. So for some people listening, perhaps this is all still sounding kind of strange. Like, what is this conscious cannabis stuff? And how is cannabis going to connect me with the sacred? That's what we're going to be opening with today. And so hopefully you will come away with a better sense of how to engage with cannabis in the spirit that these gentlemen have been cultivating over the years, and I count myself among them. So with that, I'm going to open the dialogue space and invite Ryan and Jordan to just begin. And I really want to root this down in personal experience. Let's try and keep it localized to the impact, potential, and potential trickiness that cannabis has had in each of our lives. And then as we go through, we can consider the higher power of cannabis as well.
Beautiful. Dude, I love this, man. I love this opening. And, I think for me, and I imagine for people listening, a great place to start is not even what is conscious cannabis, but what does it mean to be conscious? So for me, being conscious is being aware of what you're doing, why you're doing it, and what you're looking for out of it. Even if what you're looking for out of it isn't necessarily specific, maybe you're looking for a perspective shift, but you're not really sure what perspective shift you're looking for. But that ability to be aware of what you're doing, why you're doing it, and what you're looking for out of it is, to me, the definition of being conscious just in general. Now, when we apply that to cannabis, we are now becoming aware of what we're doing with the plant, why we're doing it, aka certain intentions, certain ceremonial structures, etc., and what we're looking for out of it, right? What would be a successful experience? What would be a challenging experience, and things of that nature? Not to say that success and challenge are not synonymous in certain ways, because they are, right? Like many times when we connect with a plant medicine that is meant to lower our ego and default mode network, we will ultimately begin invoking certain challenges, right? Becoming more aware of our nervous system state, becoming more aware of subconscious programs. And so those things can be challenging. But at the same time, when we think about the idea of utilizing cannabis as a plant medicine, that's actually a lot of what we're looking for, right? And that's one of the things I like to talk about a lot when it comes to cannabis making people anxious or making people paranoid, and saying that it doesn't make you anything. It just acts as a mirror that reflects back to you your own internal state of awareness. And a big part of conscious living is being able to take ownership and accountability over your experience and not project and blame it on an external substance, on a person, etc., for why you're feeling the way you're feeling inside. And when you're able to do that, when you're able to take that degree of ownership with, in this case, cannabis, you're able to start having a co-creative, co-communicative relationship with the plant. And that's really, I think, one of the biggest missing pieces to working with cannabis. Now, I say specifically cannabis because if you talk about intention, if you talk about ceremony, and you mentioned psilocybin or LSD or ayahuasca, people are like, yeah, we get that. Totally makes sense. But somehow along the way, cannabis got bastardized into Cheech and Chong and Harold and Kumar and all of these depictions of the plant that make it seem like it's nothing more than just something that's stupid, makes you goofy, makes you dumb. When in reality, cannabis can make you laugh. It can be silly, but it goes so much deeper than that, you know? And so a big part of, you know, what I do and why I'm so excited to have this conversation is not to knock other plant medicines or try to create a hierarchy, but in the same time, allow cannabis to rise into the conversation with other psychedelic medicines. Because, like you were saying, Jacob, cannabis is the most popular plant medicine out there, right? Many different types of people interact with it already right now. And my whole idea, or idea rather, for that matter, is, you know, what would happen if we teach all of those people just to specifically state what they want from the medicine before they connect with it? Teach them to get still with it, right? Very small shifts. They don't need to spend any extra money. They don't need to leave their house. They don't need to do anything different, right? Very low barrier for entry. What would be the ripple effect if every single person that connected with cannabis understood to use intention before it, understood to create a ceremonial context, understood that the plant is not there to fix your life for you, that it's up to you to take what the plant shows you and figure out the how, right? Figure out what you're going to do with that and how you plan to integrate what the plant shows you into the totality of your life. So really excited to keep this conversation going. Really excited.
Yeah, that's an amazing intro, Ryan. Thanks for opening with that. And yeah, when I'm feeling into cannabis and the sacred, I'm just feeling into the way my relationship with cannabis shifted actually after working ceremonially with other plant medicines. That's what's coming up for me. Because it was really such a paradigm shift for me to enter a ceremonial context with plant medicine, which first occurred for me with San Pedro and ayahuasca, and seeing that shamanic context, the ceremonial context, and the way you could create this space of reverence and intention around plant medicine, set deep intentions, say deep prayers, and then go into that space. That was a whole epiphany, paradigm shift for me. And so then bringing that into my life with cannabis afterwards. I mean, for one, interestingly, I wasn't even planning on this. This wasn't my intention, but after working with ayahuasca a few times, my use of cannabis actually went down dramatically, because for years I had been using it in a more unconscious, kind of numbing out sort of way. That's not to say that there weren't many beneficial and somewhat mystical effects of it, but there was also a heavy element of just using it to numb out and kind of couch lock and just kind of escape from life. And after a few ayahuasca ceremonies, I went from like being a daily cannabis user to like maybe like 10 or 15% of days I would use cannabis the last few years, and use it in a much more intentional way. And interestingly, cannabis started to become a portal to a lot of the intelligence and kind of energies and consciousness that I would access with ayahuasca or with other medicines, such as bufo as well, for example, getting flavors of these stronger medicines coming through with cannabis. So that kind of tuned me into the recognition that all of these sacred plant medicines, these master plants, are connected to this Gaian super intelligence, you could say, and can be used to plug into that healing web of intelligence that encircles the planet, and on a deeper level than that, just plug directly into source itself, God, whatever you want to call it, the Tao. And yeah, so that really radically altered my relationship with cannabis. And I'm not going to say that I purely use it, like that I only use it in a completely ceremonial way at this point. I also still enjoy to use cannabis in a more like chill, playful, relaxing, enjoy music with friends kind of way. But I can't remember the last time that I didn't set an intention before smoking now, though. I will always just say a prayer. And very often the prayer relates to relaxation, playfulness, creativity, clarity, guidance, heart purification, connection to God. And I'll just say that, and it changes the experience dramatically of the plant. So yeah, that's what comes up first for me.
Yeah, beautifully put, Jordan, and also Ryan. Thank you for setting that foundation. Couldn't have said it better myself. I mean, what was coming for me just in the last few days was that sense that uh, cannabis, especially conscious cannabis, can bring about a remembering, and that is true, I think, for people who've experienced plant medicine or haven't experienced plant medicine. There is a remembering of the body, there's a kind of remembering of the self. And for me, it's been a tremendous, tremendous aid in those junctures where I've really let my life become a to-do list, and I'm just completely embattled, and I've lost all sense of perspective of like, what am I really in? Like, what is the real context of my life, of my soul's journey? And it's in those moments in particular that I find cannabis provides that opportunity to kind of reconnect with the ceremonial frequency, to reconnect with God, to reconnect with the broader context of my creative journey. And so it kind of takes me out of like the immediate tasks that may be dominating my awareness and allows me to kind of see like, oh, okay, it's kind of a stepping back life review opportunity for me. And I think it's really, really healthy and corrective for me to have that periodically. And I also resonate with Jordan's experience of having gone from somebody who did have a strong daily relationship with cannabis and dipped in and out of dependence, played around with being conscious, but also was heavily into it as a lifestyle. And it was after journeying with other plant medicines that I eventually cut that for a long period and then created a structure of only using on weekends. And that's been enormously powerful. And the one thing I always recommend, and spoke with you about this, Ryan, on our last podcast, like if there's one thing that can create a basis for a more conscious relationship, with the exception to actually setting the intention in prayer, it's confining your cannabis use to certain days on and certain days off, so you can really start to understand your relationship to it.
Yeah, 100% agreed. That was one of the biggest shifts for me. When I discovered all of this, right, I had tapped into that power from time to time. When I was 16, 17, I found cannabis and it really helped me with my anxiety, the anxiety that the doctor told me I had, right? So, what had happened once I had been told that I had anxiety was, unbeknownst to me, I had started forming all of these stories and belief systems around what anxiety meant to me, what it was going to allow me to do in life or not allow me to do in life. And it started to really box me in. And what I experienced with cannabis that first time was a juxtaposition shift, right? From I have anxiety to a part of me feels anxious in this moment, right? And now, because of that juxtaposition shift, I wasn't the anxious person anymore. I was experiencing anxiety. And so I had tapped into certain things like that just by chance, kind of like just hitting a jackpot on a slot machine. You sat down at the right time, but I had no idea, how to describe that cannabis could do those things or anything. No context, because, like I said before, even though cannabis is the most popular plant medicine, it is the most misunderstood. And none of us ever got a user manual for it, right? It doesn't really exist. That's a lot of what I've sought to create with the courses and whatnot, is like, what is the long lost user manual for how to actually utilize this plant in not even the correct way, because I think that implies a duality, but in a way that's going to be, self-serving, right? In a way that's going to be able to allow you to benefit from it. And so from there, it was many years of playing with dependency, right? Because for many of us, we feel some sort of discomfort. We then find this thing externally that makes us feel better, gives us comfort. Of course, if we don't know how to provide that comfort for ourselves, we are going to seek more and more of that external comfort out to figure out and kind of like cover over this discomfort within. But like I always tell everyone, one of the biggest shifts with cannabis addiction and dependency is recognizing that you're not addicted to cannabis. You're not dependent on cannabis itself. You're addicted or dependent to trying to escape those feelings that you feel unconsciously, right? You don't know, usually in most cases, that you're feeling them. All you know is that every morning when you wake up, you're in a ritual of lighten up, and that's what makes you feel safe in the world. And so there was many years of me going through that too. until I started working at a local school that taught cannabis education. And I had the opportunity to support many different cancer patients and people with autoimmune disorders and people of that nature with cannabis. And I got to see with my own two eyes, cannabis curing cancer, cannabis being able to repair relationships, and all of these things that I had no context for, right? There was especially little information out in 2011 when this was happening. And then when I had the opportunity to bring my father through the end of his life and support him with cannabis through that process, that's really where I tapped into the ability of cannabis to be this, what we would now call plant medicine, right? Ultimate connection medicine is what I called it at that time. But this ability to have this totally different side of a human being come forth, one that is not as full of nonsense, right? Programs, patterns, belief systems, etc. One that is able to be more vulnerable. You know, if you think about a kitchen table, right, that has a bunch of pages, you know, on top of it and a bunch of things blocking the ability for this table to actually have meals eaten at it. Oftentimes you can forget there's even a table under there, right? Until all of a sudden, maybe one day someone swipes everything off the table and you're like, whoa, here I was thinking I didn't have enough room to eat. And oh my God, there's a table right there, right? So that's, I feel, what cannabis does, is it just takes a lot of the nonsense away and leaves you with a pure version of what and who you truly are. Now, for some people, that can be a really enjoyable experience. For some people, that can be a very challenging experience because they're actually coming face to face for the first time with all of these aspects or parts of them that may not be happy with them, may not feel heard, may not feel seen. And so there goes the anxiety, the paranoia, etc. But when I started to really tap into this, I was able to see like, oh, that's not cannabis doing this to me. That's cannabis showing me aspects of me that are requiring more love right now. Not for me to, you know, close them out or think they're bad, because that's what I'd already done unconsciously, but to actually for the first time meet them where they're at and just hold them in love. And, you know, I think that one of the best things about cannabis that you guys are echoing too is that it is extremely practical for most people right now. You know, how many people are hearing about the psychedelic renaissance and hearing about all the amazing things that psychedelics can bring forth in someone, but maybe they don't have $5,000 to go to the jungle. Maybe they don't have 2.5, 3 weeks they can take off from their life. Maybe they have families. Maybe they have all these things going on, but they have a dispensary around the corner, or they can grow a plant in their backyard, right? For these kind of people, you know, trying to get them to do mushrooms or things that they're either not ready for or can't afford or can't, you know, seek out is not going to allow them to be part of this revolution. But if we can take something they're already aware of and just give them a little bit of shift on it, what's the ripple effect of that? I'm not sure, but I believe it's going to be big.
Yeah, absolutely love that way of thinking, Ryan. That's amazing. Yeah, it's so fascinating. I hadn't really considered that perspective, that cannabis is just so already ridiculously widespread. It's a bit like a Trojan horse that has already infiltrated millions, hundreds of millions of people's lives, and they don't realize that they're potentially connecting to a portal to the astonishing miracle of existence. I mean, that's the other thing about cannabis. And really, before I ever even used cannabis in a conscious way, I think one of the biggest things that it would connect me to was wonder. It would connect me to this childlike wonder. It has the capacity to dissolve some of these layers of adulting and these layers of like language-based filtering of the world that turns the world into, oh, that's just a tree, that's just a cloud, I've seen these things 1,000 times before. If those filters just get a little bit thinner, then we can come into a more direct contact with the fact that we don't know what a cloud is, we don't know what a tree is actually. And then you can experience it again like a child and just see the freshness of this moment now and be reconnected in your heart to the mystery of being itself that is all around you. And so, yeah, I think that's an amazing idea to instruct the people who are already using cannabis in how to use it more wisely, more consciously.
Yeah, 100%. Jake, do you mind if I come in again real quick?
Please.
I got something on that. So I'm glad you brought that up, man, because I have this whole theory, right? I'm not sure where it ends, where it starts, et cetera, but I'd love to share it with you guys, right? So you were talking about mystery and you were talking about the idea of not knowing, right? So the ego, one of the things that the mind will do, and it's not a bad thing necessarily, it's to allow us to not be like shocked at every little thing we're seeing constantly, be overwhelming. But we do know that can have a diminishing return, right? How many people are like, I'm not going to go to that park. I've already been to parks before, right? Like, what's the new thing with that park? Or I've been outside and seen the stars a million times. Why do I care to go out tonight, right? We start boxing ourselves in and getting adulterated, right? I've seen one, so I've seen them all. I've already experienced that. And we thirst trap ourselves into thinking that because we've already had the experience of seeing a tree or seeing a cloud, that we quote unquote know what that tree or cloud is. Now, if you think about the Bible quote, if you want to enter the kingdom of heaven, you must first enter the mind of a child. And you think about what the mind of a child is encompassed with, which is curiosity, imagination, awe, and wonder, and the beauty of not knowing. How many kids will ask an adult why about one or too many times to make the adult have like a hemorrhage, right, in their brain? You know, they're not doing that on purpose. They're just curious. And they're not attached to the idea that the point of life is to know things or that it's embarrassing to not know things. And so that really is, in my opinion, what psychedelics and cannabis really do, is they allow us to realize the thirst trap we've laid for ourselves, that we'll never know anything, and that actually the best part of life is the not knowing. Because think of it this way. What was the best part of Christmas morning, or insert holiday or birthday here? It wasn't opening the gifts. It wasn't playing with them. It was coming down in the morning, seeing a bunch of gifts there that you didn't know what they were yet. Maybe you had ideas, but you didn't know yet. That was the best part, right? So why do we go through life in a way where we're trying to figure out and know everything, when in reality, there is no objective reality? And this is what psychedelics show you. They show you that everything is subjective, right? The first hermetic principle, the universe is mental or mentalism. Everything is a story or construct. And what cannabis and psychedelics do is allow you to consciously pick the story for your life and the stories for your life that are going to lead to the most empowerment, the most joy, the most connection, and the most creativity, if you become conscious with it. If not, then like you were talking about Jordan and you've talked about Jacob, and I've experienced too, the plant will just help you numb out. Because again, if you're not making a conscious intention, right? It's not like you're not making an intention. It's just whatever's rattling around in your brain. So you come home from the end of the day from work, you're stressed out, you're like, oh God, I just can't wait to chill on the couch and just forget this day existed. And cannabis is like, abracadabra, there you go, right? And it's giving you what you're asking for, but you've yet to realize that you are the creator of your reality yet. And you haven't started that co-creative process where cannabis can actually show you the power of intention, show you the power of all of these things that are kind of qualitative in nature. And I think that's one of the biggest aspects of how cannabis is going to help us right now in society, because we're in such a left brain mentality throughout pretty much the whole world. Whereas thousands of years ago, we were in a very right brain state, connected to everything. And I'm not here to say the left brain is bad, but it's just that maybe the polarity shifted a little too far and we're about to find the balancing point. And I think psychedelics are one of the best ways to do that, because part of being conscious with these medicines is integrating, right? And actually stabilizing that reality that you experience when you're in a psychedelic experience, so that then your whole life becomes the psychedelic and you become the psychedelic. You become the red pill. And then when you walk throughout society and you're full of joy, you're loving, you're laughing, you're doing all the things, the people that are ready to also wake up will start asking you, hey, Jordan or Jacob, what are you guys doing? I mean, it looks like you're really happy. And that's their soul saying, hey, tell me your secrets, right? And so at the end of the day, this is one of the best ways I've found to be able to tap into your unique power, whatever that is, so that you can light up the world and usher in a more beautiful world for generations to come and leave the Garden of Earth greener than when you found it. So I wanted to throw that in there because you just brought that up, man. It's really cool.
That's very, very beautiful, Ryan. Thank you.
Glad you guys like that one.
No, that was hot. That was hot. Yeah, I think I just wanted to draw out the sensibility I have, that we have. I can't remember if it's right brain or left brain, but certainly we've moved into a technocratic lifestyle and a technologic lifestyle that poses serious threats to our well-being and capacity to simply feel human and connect with our bodies, connect with other people, and connect with nature. I think a few hundred years ago, these things were much more readily given. Most people lived close to nature. There were no cars. There were no trains. There were no planes. There was no internet invading the home. And they worked outside. Today, there are cars, there are planes, there are trains. You live in an urban matrix, which has been planned and designed before you were even born. And it's incredibly easy to lose connection with yourself in that context. I often think that this era, this moment of phase shift is kind of like trying to surf between breakthrough and burnout. And I certainly have walked that line over the last few years. And it's precisely in that context that cannabis offers a very precisely attuned medicine for that condition. And it just drops me right down from all of that highly mentalized space that I'm in, highly self-aware, and in that sense disconnected from other people. And it brings me down, and I just go out and I start walking and I see things anew, and I go and I'll just have a conversation with somebody that otherwise I would not have. Yesterday, I was a couple of days ago, I had smoked and I ended up going to the meat market, and I was just talking with the women who sell the chicken in Spanish and just connecting with them. And I never would usually do that, but in that zone, I just had this beautiful space of sharing energy. And that happens so often for me with cannabis. So it's an absolute delight. And I mean, I do often feel like this is me, but more me. And of course, the goal is not to become dependent on cannabis to access that. It's for that to be a reminder, a remembering of where I can be, and to instantiate that day to day with prayer and with connection to God. But cannabis is an indispensable tool. And I want to actually bring in Coryayo, Cory Altenhof here. I'm just going to add your pin. Cory is an incredible painter and artist. He's got some of his stuff behind him, and also actively engaged in providing the sound and music for people's medicine journeys for the last few years, and murals and all kinds of stuff. So yeah, Cory, I just wanted to kind of see what you're picking up on in this dialogue so far, and also like what role has cannabis played in your journey as an artist?
Yeah, it's been some beautiful shares so far. A lot of it really resonated deeply with me, and like similar stories with me too. Like I started out using cannabis with more of a just a like, I don't know, party mentality, sort of like just to escapism type of vibe with it. And just over the years, like interacting with other plant medicines like mushrooms, and recently in the past like 5 years or so, ayahuasca and bufo, that has really shifted my perspective on it. But I feel like I've, even in the midst of it all, like there's always been like a sacredness about it that I could tap into, even when I was less aware of it. Because even when I started out, just like smoking, I was already like beginning my music journey, and I could tell the effects of it were positive towards me and my creativity. And like this was before I even ever did ayahuasca or bufo. I would just smoke weed and like make beats all night, or like you know, get lost into like just listening to records for hours, and it just like opened me up to this like alternate state of consciousness that seems really like really nurturing for creativity to take place. So yeah, and like my use of it nowadays is a lot less frequent. Like I don't smoke every day just to like get high or escape the world, but I do it in a more of an intentional way. Um, like if I'm gonna create a song, or if maybe I have a block of, you know, a few hours to paint or whatever, I will smoke and sort of use it as a initiation for a meditation, and then like before I get into creative space. So like I might even just go to the park and lay out in the sun for a while and smoke a joint, and then like play my flute, or you know, whatever. Like the space is pretty limitless, but Yeah, I do. The intention thing is very big for me. I can't say that I do that 100% of the time, but definitely try to use intention with it as much as possible because it's very real for me, like the effects of it.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Cory. I just want to pin a couple of threads that are kind of alive for this part of the conversation. I definitely love to hear more about creativity from all of you and how, like, I always try and bring this conscious cannabis culture conversation not just into like how it's going to aid you personally, but how this is relevant to the collective and existential crisis situation. And that just, there's something quite radical about that, especially in the context of millions of people still having a Cheech and Chong mentality around it, to actually think, okay, right relationship with cannabis could help to steward humanity through the eye of the needle of this radical period of change. But that seems to be the case for me, and unlocking creativity, releasing the traumas and conditions that block us from actually fully expanding into that. And like Jordan and Cory have both really brought the inner child and like the relevance of the inner child way more into my awareness over the last year with their creativity and their tracks. And then in addition to that, there is this sense of a return to relationship with the sacred happening in culture. There's a lot of people coming back to Christianity. There's a lot of people looking for deeper context, deeper community. And I'm deeply interested in how conscious cannabis can come into dialogue with that search, with that movement. And personally, I definitely see that there's a great potential for cannabis and Christianity, or kind of Christianity beyond itself, to connect, and for that to be a kind of sacrament that people partake of intentionally, and allows them to really bring the sacred down into the flesh, and kind of, you know, lift the embodied experience up to the sacred, and create that state of communion, whether with themselves or with others. So I wonder what that brings up for all of you guys.
Dude, I got something. So if you think about this, right, like based on what you were talking about, and Jamie Wheel's book, Recapture the Rapture, goes into this, how we're currently in a meaning crisis right now. And you're seeing people kind of frantically try to find meaning in their life, right? But they're trying to find it through external means, right? Like, oh, I'll join a religion, or I'll join this or join that. And those aren't bad things, right? They're not bad whatsoever. But the challenge is that we've already done that, right? This needs to be a comeback, not a go back. And at the end of the day, we're kind of returning to what was originally on earth with the animism point of view, which is everything is God, everything is sacred, right? Everything is everything, and everything is also nothing, and everything and nothing are the same thing, right? And so we went from animism into polytheism. There are many gods, but they're separate from me. They're out there. And then in the monotheism, there's one, but he's out there. And now we're coming back to what Jamie Wheel calls holism, right? Which is like, oh, I am God, you are God, this desk is God, that cup is God, everything is God, right? And so that ability to be able to see yourself and everything around you as God is something that is already within us, right? We already have that within us. But like I was saying before, that kind of nonsense that gets cluttered on top of us, right, starts really affecting us. You know, for instance, Cory, with art, right? Like, you know, when we're in school as a kid, we are all creators, right? When we're kids, we're, you know, using imagination, we're creating all of these things. And then we get told what art is, right? Oh, art is painting. It's like, oh, okay. And we start having these, you know, boxing in of all of these very qualitative subjects. Like everything is art, if you really think about it. But at least for me, I won't project it on anyone else. When I went to school, I had this weird form of like, oh, being an artist is painting or drawing, or something like that. It took me a long time to even realize that music was art, right? As I started to go through grade school. But at the end of the day, if we look at the world right now, I don't believe there's any bigger issue than what they call a loneliness issue, but what I actually call a connection issue. Because loneliness is the result. It's not actually the problem. It's just like cannabis dependency is the result. It's not the actual problem. The actual problem is an inability to know thyself. and therefore connect first and foremost with yourself. Because just the same way that you can only love another as much as you love yourself, you can only see everyone else as God to the level that you see yourself as God. And so that inability to feel that connection, I think, is a lot of why people are searching right now. And what's great about plant medicine is that with religion and even spiritual doctrines, many of them just have you practice blind faith, right? They just tell you have faith. Now, for me personally, that never really worked for me. I was like, well, what am I having faith in? And why does this individual that I'm supposed to have faith in need money every time I go to mass on Sunday, right? So like there were a lot of issues there for me personally. So for me, the first time I ever connected with cannabis and connected with other plant medicines, I didn't need to believe in God. I now knew God. I knew he, it, whatever existed. And from that point forward, and I also knew that he was part of me, right? Because I got to see that if I'm a fractal of the infinite awareness that is creator, well, if the creator is all and we all come from the all, then how can we not have the all within us at the same time? And I think this is a lot of what we're currently going through in society, right? As our planet becomes fourth density consciousness and it starts to swing more and more towards the positive polarity, aka the polarity that's all about service to others, coming from love, things like that. I think we're going to naturally see more and more of this coming up. And it may make people think that things are worse than ever, or they've never been this bad or anything, but it's not that. It's just that we've never been this aware before. And with cannabis, one of the big things it does is it shifts your brainwaves from beta, like go, 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 what we're in right now, into alpha, flow state, and theta, which is your subconscious level. And when you get into the subconscious, like we already talked about, now you're able to see all that is really ailing you, all these potential boogeymen that live inside you, and you're able to love them. And when you love them, you're able to transform them and transcend them and come back to your already innate state of being, which is joy, which is connection, which is God, which is love, which is infiniteness. And I think that the more that we are able to shed light on these types of things and give people the option, because again, plant medicines are just one river out of endless rivers that can lead to the same sea. And like I always say, the only river that's wrong is the one that tells you it's the only one that can get you there. And I think that's the challenge that I ran into with religion and even some spiritual doctrines. I've been a part of some groups that try to say, oh, we've got it figured out. And I'm like, no, I don't believe that. I think a lot of people have it figured out, and you just go to the one that resonates with you the most. So I wanted to bring that up as well. And, I think one of the big things that happens with cannabis is another note I put down that I wanted to say is, a lot of people mistake the moon or sun for the finger that points them at it. So imagine that cannabis is this finger, right, that can point you back to the direction of the sun, aka self-actualization, self-realization, seeing yourself as God, etc. Cannabis can point you there. What ends up happening is a lot of people end up focusing and worshiping the hand instead of the actual sun it's pointing you towards. So it's kind of like the guru concept, right? How someone like an Osho was trying to share deeper concepts and people just started worshiping him instead of the actual things he was speaking of. And I think this is a lot of what's happening with cannabis and other medicines as well. I always say respect and reverence are not the same as worship. Like these plants don't want us to worship them. That makes it a very awkward type of relationship. They want respect, they want reverence, but at the same time, they don't want us to just spend all of our time focusing on the teacher. They want us to learn what they're teaching us and continue on our journey to reach self-actualization and self-realization. So I wanted to throw those things in too.
Yeah, beautifully put, Ryan. It reminds me of the idea of cannabis as Socrates, maybe rather than cannabis as the Messiah. Like Socrates doesn't want you to treat him as the Messiah. It's kind of like through him, he shows you yourself and kind of opens you. He's like a Morpheus kind of figure. So I want to hand it over to Jordan. And then, man, I just remembered we got a dope sound healing coming up and an opportunity to actually connect with cannabis. Which is what this dialogue is really laying a powerful foundation for. So I'm going to hand it to Jordan. And then after Jordan, maybe we can move over to Cory. And Jordan, if there's anything you want to share, like in the lead up to the sound ceremony as well, we had talked about doing a little bit of breath prior to beginning. I think that would be a really nice lead in. So I'd invite you to bring some of that as well, if you'd like.
Sure, yeah. So you'd like me to lead a guided meditation before Cory does the sound healing? Is that?
I imagine you guys can dovetail it once he starts hitting those bowls. Maybe you can
Okay, you're saying come in
Oh.
over the sound even a little bit.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. If there's too much echo, then maybe just do it prior.
All right, cool. Yeah, so I definitely think cannabis can be part of the solution to, you know, the woes of humanity. It's yeah, to me, similar to what Ryan said, I deeply feel in my heart that the meta solution to humanity's many issues is connection to divinity, connection to God. I feel that basically all of the madness that we see in the world, it's all stemming from disconnection from the heart of truth within ourselves of what we are and where we come from, and that in our essence, non-separation is the reality. We're not separate from each other. We're not separate from God. We're all part of this one tapestry. We're all children of God. We're all emergent from that one creator spirit. And yeah, to me, I feel plant medicines, when used intentionally, when used wisely, again, they create an opening where divinity can be accessed, where divinity can be noticed directly in the present moment as the very substratum of the moment, as the very nature of what experience is made of. Experience itself is divinity. It's made of divinity. It's made of God. And our culture is so similar to what Ryan said earlier. Our culture is so left brain oriented. We're conditioned from such a young age to put the thinking mind on a pedestal and prize and cherish the thinking mind as if it were the pinnacle of all intelligence. And that really dupes us. That really distracts us. We get hyper fixated on the thinking mind. And to me, the truth is that the thinking mind is a beautiful servant and a terrible master. And this connects to the book by Ian McGilchrist, The Master and His Emissary, where he essentially says that our culture has become left brain imbalanced, and that the left brain is truly its ideal, its optimal function in a human being is as the emissary, and the master is the right brain. The master is the right brain, which is more connected to intuition and imagination and the poetry of existence and the spiritual truth of our existence. And so I think, similar to what Cory was saying, even before I worked with a lot of other plant medicines, I think cannabis was already opening me to reconnect to a more right brain and heart-centered orientation toward life, because again, it just temporarily short circuits the overemphasis on languaging everything and putting everything in these conceptual boxes. And it just brings you into direct contact with the wonderment, with the unspeakable reality of now. And it creates this space that allows you to step back from your normal life and have these nonlinear insights and revelations about, oh, I never saw things that way. Like, you see yourself from a fresh point of view, but also you just suddenly have this more spacious, this more expanded view of everything around you. And you're like, oh, wow, actually, I haven't been here before. This moment is new. This moment is fresh. I've never experienced this moment before. And I can see what's before me in a whole new way. I can see the poetry of existence. I can see that this is not just a random accident. This is not just a haphazard splashing around of random chemicals. This is the artistry of the creator right before us. There is symmetry. There is intentionality. There's unimaginable intelligence and imagination woven into every detail that we see around us. So yeah, I do deeply believe that cannabis can be part of the solution. And I think starting to see it as a sacred medicine, as a plant medicine, as a psychedelic, is one step in that respect, which Ryan touched on as well. Like most people still don't really put it in that category. It's just kind of like weed, man, like, oh, you a pothead. And it's like cannabis is a master plant. It is a sacred plant teacher. And it's also one more thing is just that it probably has the lowest likelihood of things going really awry. So it's more conducive to at-home ceremonies and like self-usage than a lot of other psychedelics. Whereas you don't want somebody to just drink, a cup of ayahuasca alone at home with no support. That would go haywire for a lot of people. Probably they wouldn't have the proper space, the proper context. The more powerful psychedelics, you have to be more careful about that. And cannabis, of course, can also be really powerful. If you take edibles or something like that, you got to be careful. That can be really, really potent. But, if you're aware of how to dose cannabis, you can really do it, regularly and safely just in your own home. So, yeah. Anywho, that's the gist of what I wanted to say.
Jake, can I say
wonderful.
Quick?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I'll just preface, this is going to be our transition now. And anybody who's watching, who's wanting to connect with cannabis, you're invited to do that as we move into the ceremony space with Cory. And yeah, that's going to be an opportunity to really experience what we've been talking about today. And yeah, Ryan, if you wanted to add anything on that.
Yeah, Jordan, I loved what you just shared, man. And I wanted to throw in real quick too that, I recommend everyone listening to this, go do some research into cannabis, right? Because maybe you're feeling like you already agree with us. Maybe you're feeling like, I don't know. Maybe you're feeling like, I don't get this at all, right? Regardless of what camp you fall into, there's a book right there called Liber 420, Cannabis, Magical Herbs, and the Occult by the leading cannabis historian, Chris Bennett, that will show you with clear evidence that cannabis has been a part of almost every occult and spiritual practice for the last 10,000 years. So when you look into how this plant came to be this silly plant that just Cheech and Chong use and whatever, you can really go back to the 1930s and start really understanding why this plant became demonized. It had nothing to do, spoiler alert, with your health or the government caring about you, right? Nothing at all. It was all just simply vested interests in different textile companies that were nervous about hemp taking those industries over. So definitely go do some research into these things and continue to red pill yourself because, I think I speak for all of us here. Like, I don't ever want someone to take me at face value. I want you guys to go do your research and I want you to feel the same feelings I felt. And I'm sure Jacob's felt, Jordan's felt, Cory's felt when you dive into these things and you start realizing how ridiculous it is that a lot of us have come to believe that natural plants that grow in God's earth are somehow bad, right? Like that is an absolutely insane thing to have implanted into your brain. And it's time for all of us to start taking those frags out of our brains because at the end of the day, there's never been a time in history where people have not been altering their consciousness to get closer to God and come back and share with others. So just wanted to throw that in there.
A wonderful addition. Cory, is it right that it would be better to speak before you start, or that we could do it over the top? Will there be an echo?
Yeah, you could do it over the top or even like leading into. And yeah, however long you want to do the breathwork meditation is fine. I think you could just like sort of intuitively, it's Jordan that's going to be doing it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you could just sort of intuitively do it and maybe drop out at a certain point whenever it feels right.
Yeah.
Cool.
Do you want me to like play some of your ambient music from my end to lead in, and then pass it to you to do the sound healing? You want me to talk over what you're playing?
Sure, that works. Or I can even play tracks from here because I'm already sharing sound. But
yeah, before it.
Yeah, let's let Cory to share it. And yeah, we've never done this before, Jordan, but let's just try freestyling it. Okay, so I'm gonna throw a few words in and then hand it to you. And if Ryan somehow wants to spit sacredly in the midst of that, we can do that as well. All right, a little bit of creative chaos before we. And Yeah, I think I just want to take this moment to be my prayer and my blessing upon the cannabis that I am about to imbibe. And I want to invite that with my whole heart, that it will be medicine for me and that it will bring medicine frequency to this space. And that these little drops that we're making together can ripple out into the whole and continue to build and flower in beautiful and unexpected ways.
I'm just inviting anyone who's listening to imbibe your cannabis with intention at this time, if you would like to, and then find a good spot to lay down and start taking some deep breaths. Recommend taking some deep breaths throughout this ceremony. You can also infuse some breath holds in there. Those can really take you deeper. If you've taken some deep breaths for a while, you can then hold your breath for a period of time, stretch yourself a little bit, and really let go while you're holding the breath. And then release and just really let go on an even deeper level and release whatever is not serving your highest good. And right now, if you like, you can begin taking some deep belly breaths with me, feeling like you're breathing with your entire body. Breathing through the mouth, some of the deepest breaths that you've taken in a long time. Letting out a sigh on the exhale if you need to, letting out any sounds that want to come out. Breathing in pure light, breathing in pure light, pure love, the highest divine love. Breathing out whatever is not serving, whatever is ready to be released. Connecting with your inner child, seeing your inner child in your mind's eye, surrounded by light. Just contemplating Christ's words, ye must become like little children to enter the kingdom of heaven. Just feeling the possibility that those words point to the possibility of seeing this moment now with total freshness, seeing this moment now with new eyes, seeing this moment now through the eyes of pure innocence, pure wonderment, feeling causeless joy and playfulness, sacred fun, a sense of life as a grand adventure with everything ahead of us, pure imagination, total creativity, infinite possibility. What if that is the life you're living now? And you simply have to open your eyes and see it. Feeling and knowing and understanding in this moment that you are loved beyond measure, you can absolutely trust life. You can absolutely trust God. You can absolutely trust your own heart. It's safe to be you. It's safe to let yourself feel. The space is completely for you. Let yourself relax. Let yourself unwind. It's okay to follow the current of aliveness in this life. What is really alive in your heart and soul? Thank you for being you. You're beautiful. I love you. Life loves you. God loves you. Thank you, cannabis. Thank you, divinity. Thank you, mystery. Thank you, nature. Thank you, love. Thank you, truth. Amen. Namaste. Aho.
Slowly turn. Slowly return to turn. Slowly return to the body. Bring it back. Coming into stillness and inner peace that is always here. Thank you.
Okay. Has everybody landed?
Roger that.
I would honestly prefer to stay in longer. That was amazing.
Yeah, that was really good, Cory. Oh my God. You're a wizard, my friend. You're a wizard, Harry.
That was the first time doing a Zoom sound healing, so it was fun, just like experimenting a little bit.
Bro, I have to say, you really brought the jungle to me. And yeah, I a little bit of context. You don't know Ryan, but went on a retreat with Cory and Jordan in December, and it was just the most powerful medicine portal of my entire life. And so being here with them both and being in this sound space is like definitely brought me back very intimately with the space of ayahuasca. And yeah, Jordan's just proposed that we extend that process a little bit with one more track and some words from him. And maybe that's the more beautiful way to reflect is over the music, if that works. And yeah, Ryan, I invite the same from you. Anything that's come out of that experience, you can share in this kind of closing section.
Do you want me to share now or when the music starts? Or are we starting music?
Yeah, if you want to play a track,
Cool.
Cory, would that work?
Oh yeah, yeah. You just want me to play?
Something ambient.
Yeah. How much?
I was actually, I meant that I'd play a track that already has a guided meditation recorded over it over one of Cory's tracks.
Oh, dope.
You guys want to?
Oh,
hear that?
excellent.
That's
Yeah.
dope too.
Yeah.
That's dope too. Yeah, I
Let's
didn't
do
know
it.
what you had in mind.
Okay, cool. So yeah, just invite the audience to continue relaxing and laying down, breathing, and let yourself sink into this meditation. It's a beat of Cory's. It's a ambient song Cory made, and then I made this meditation over it.
I'm excited to hear.
Yeah. This is God. Right now. You are living the one indefinable mystery right now. God is now. God is the fact of your direct experience. Your direct experience is spontaneously, undeniably bursting forth in every nanosecond. Where is it coming from? Where is it being conjured from? You do not know. You do not know what anything is. Drop all assumptions and concepts to discover the undefined, the uninterpreted, the inconceivable. Return to infant mind and realize that the immediate, naked fact of your direct, felt experience is the only truth, the only non-thing there is. Things do not exist. Objects do not exist. Words create objects. Words create the appearance of things. But there are no things. There are no discrete entities or objects here. There is only the one continuum of the field itself, the field of consciousness. There is only the indivisible, indefinable, unified mystery. You are that miraculous mystery. You are the unsayable intelligence that effortlessly accomplishes itself. You are the clarity and lucidity in which all appearances arise and fall away. The clarity never departs from itself. All appearances are entirely made of clarity, entirely made of the free light of awareness, entirely made of peace and happiness. You are happiness. You don't need to go looking for it because you never lost it. You need only to drop the story that says happiness is somewhere else. Happiness is not somewhere else. It's right here where it's always been. The pure, radiant sun of being shines equally upon all moments, in all places. It is the light in which all moments appear, the clear light. This light is happiness. It is what you are. This light knows nothing of pain and hardship, right and wrong, good and bad, should and should not. It knows no words. It simply knows no thing at all. And this is why it effortlessly allows all to be as it is. effortlessly embracing every aspect of the dance. Be the clear, free light, my friends. Be happy. Be free.
Thank you, everyone. Blessings to all. Peace and love.
Well, that was dope. You guys are a bunch of wizards.
Thanks, man.
Very welcome.
No, that was nice. That was really nice. I'm glad you proposed that extra round. I think we all needed it. Yeah, it's incredible to feel like I can still touch into the medicine space, like whilst kind of having this cold and being a little bit, worn down from the last few weeks. And I kind of felt myself going through the layers, like starting like really just connecting with the cold I was having and like the feeling of being worn down, and then that slowly starting to give way as the music from Cory was moving. And soon started to really feel that that ayahuasca medicine space start to come through a little bit. And it's been such a long time since I've connected with the medicine of sound in that way. So yeah, I'm just feeling like a really loving reminder of, damn, I need more of this, this kind of frequency flowing in my life. But I'm so glad to have manifested manifested this. This is such a beautiful evolution of SENSESPACE, and what a live experience can be, and be so dope to do something like this in person someday soon as well.
Yeah, 1,000%. I just want to say that was like, for me, one of the coolest experiences with cannabis that I've ever had just now. Like when Cory's sound healing was going on, I was just like, it was full downloads. It was just like, I was just tapped it, and then started to, that meditation I played, I recorded that like immediately after smoking bufo at Kumankaya a couple years ago. So that meditation is like channeled from bufo basically. So I went like straight back to tuning in with bufo on that meditation. So yeah, that was wild, man. That was great.
Oof. Yeah, I think all I can say is, as a wise man once said, my cup overfloweth. I feel like I've gotten exactly what I needed, and I didn't even know I needed that. I second what I think it was you, Jacob, said, like, or it might have been you, Jordan. Like, I forget sometimes how much sound can really assist and support. And Cory, you did such an amazing job, man. Like, it was so mystical, dude. Like, I mean, it was seamless. The meditation after was incredible. It literally felt like God talking. Like, I don't know why, but I feel like that's what God would sound like, regardless of gender or whatever, that's what he would sound like. So it was really amazing, guys. Yeah, this is epic.
Yes, sound is so healing, and I'm just happy to be here. Grateful to like provide that. So it's it was fun because I was like, I smoked a bowl like while I was doing it. I don't know if you heard me like lighting it, but yeah, I tried to like infuse the cannabis into the sound healing. So and yeah, I love the like pitch effect that JB had on his voice. That was pretty cool too for the meditation. It was like bringing this like extra presence to it. So yeah, super fire.
Also, my gratitude to JB for the prayer invocation before we started. That was really, really, that was a one of a kind foundation. So yeah, I'm looking forward to revisiting this transmission and creating from it. And So yeah, so cool to kind of have the dialogue with you guys and talk this through, and then have that kind of, I imagine, in some way inform what Cory then channeled into the music. So yeah. All right. I feel like this is a beautiful, natural place to close this conscious cannabis ceremony, this experiment, this sacred frontiership. And yeah, I couldn't have done it in better company. So thanks you guys all for coming out for this. And yeah, many blessings to anybody who's just smoked and journeyed along with us and going out into the rest of their day, hopefully seeing everything with new eyes and a new heart. So
Yeah, thank you guys. This was amazing. And thank you to everyone who tuned in. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this. I imagine you got plenty of ideas, which is officially the term for download to get while under the influence of cannabis. So ideas for days. Thank you guys.
awesome. And I know, Ryan, you've got a cannabis offering coming up, so we can put that in the notes for this conversation. People that want to follow up.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah, we have the Conscious Cannabis Collective getting re-released, 2 brand new courses, great global community of people all around the world really tapping into the psychedelic powers of cannabis for transformation and healing. And we'll have that wait list opening up this Monday. So depending on when this goes live. But regardless, the CCC will be there for anyone interested. So yeah, thank you.
Love that. All right. Thanks everybody for listening. Godspeed.